topic for tonight, raising kiddos naturally. Amongst literally all of the things I talk about in here, this is one of my favorite topics. We eat it, live it, sleep it, breathe it every single day at our home as well as at our office. So raising kiddos. So what does that even mean, and who are we looking to reach with this, right? So you could be pregnant with kiddo. You could be thinking about getting pregnant. You could have multiple kiddos and literally realize that you've lived more of a traditional lifestyle. You're not liking the results that you're getting from living more of a traditional mainstream lifestyle. And then you might be kind of dipping your feet into more of the crunchy natural lifestyle, or you could just be full on crunchy, right? Just granola everywhere. You got essential oils going. You've got all the supplements. You've got everything, right? All your cotton is organic, everything. All things are sustainable. I get it. Totally there. That is this guy. That is our family. We're pretty crunchy. But wherever you fall on the spectrum, we love you. We welcome you. And biggest part of this tonight is I want you to grasp the fact of when you do this. So when you dive into this, I want you to start observing the world and your people that are in your life as to how they live and the results that they're getting. I don't like to live my life by what somebody's telling me that's going to happen. I like to live my life by how am I witnessing this happen within myself, within my own family, within the people who do it as well, and what are the results that they're getting, right? I'm a doctor. I'm a chiropractor. I get it. I know what function looks like. So there's feelings versus function, right? Somebody might be feeling good. There's this whole thing called placebo. And they're like, I'm feeling great because I'm doing this certain thing. But what are function tactics, right? Function tactics are like how well the digestive tract is. How well does the immune system work? What are the color in your skin? What is the clarity in your skin? What's the clarity in your eyes? What are the thickness of your nails, thickness of your hair? All these things that express function. I know what those function tactics are, and you can learn them too. Okay, so when you embark on this endeavor, whether it's your first time to hearing about this tonight, or whether you've heard about all these things and you're like, I wonder what Dr. David has to say about this as well. Doesn't matter where you're falling at. I'm just going to ask you to, as you implement and do things in your life, I want you to look at what are the results that you're getting and the people that are getting that are implementing these things. So I'm Dr. David Lutz. I'm a pediatric and family chiropractor at Pure Light Family Chiropractic. My wife is as well. We have a rock star team. We're adding somebody else onto our team in May. Our team is growing. Our office is growing. The coolest part about all of this is to watch the people transform. Watch the babies transform. Watch the kiddos transform. Watch these pregnant moms have great pregnancies, great births, awesome postpartum recoveries. Watch these families grow and thrive together, adapt more of these natural lifestyles, and get the results that they've always looked after. However, our world does not educate you in that way. It stinks, but you got to cut against the grain. You got to go a different way. You almost have to be the black sheep in order to live this lifestyle. And people are going to criticize you. People aren't going to like it. But listen, I'm telling you, when you live this lifestyle, the results that you will get are mind-blowing. So let's say you're trying to get pregnant. The results in your pregnancy, what your birth's going to look like, what your postpartum is going to look like, the health of your child, what are they going to look like when you start to live this lifestyle? It's absolutely amazing. All right, so let me look down here, make sure we're on track. Okay. So when we say raising kiddos naturally, when we say living a natural lifestyle, that does not mean no mainstream medicine. That does not mean no Western medicine, right? You got to look at what Western medicine is there for and what it's doing, okay? This doesn't mean anti-medicine. This just means natural living, and when medicine is necessary, we utilize it, okay? So when you are picking these guides, okay? So I'm going to lay it out for you. So there's 3 tiers here, okay? There is Western medicine. What's their approach? Their approach is looking at symptoms and then diagnosis and then treatment of those things. all of which are mainly through a synthetic mechanism. Okay, so whether that's with medication or surgery, it boils down to those two. Okay, when you look at more of a natural approach, okay, let's go into more like naturopathic medicine, right? That's still looking at symptoms, diagnosis, and treatment. However, if you went to that naturopath and you were like, hey, what can I do in my life to improve my child's health? They would give you a whole slew of things if they're a great naturopath, which if you see one, I'm sure they are. So they're going to give you all things that are going to fuel health as well. Okay. The third one we'll talk about in a second, but with those two, and as we embark on more specifics here, I want you to understand that what does not yield good results is looking at symptoms that come up in our body as negative things. Symptoms coming up in our body to tell us things. Why are these symptoms coming out? Okay. Sometimes they're expression that something needs to change. Sometimes they're things that the body's natural way of getting things out. Or sometimes it's telling you that something's not going right and you need to make a change. So symptoms aren't a bad thing. When you have a bacteria or a virus or a parasite inside of your body, right? You'd prefer that your digestive changes, that you got a fever, that you got a stuffy nose, that you got all these things, because those are the natural things that your body is employed to do. We'll talk more about the immune system tonight. But the model needs to be trusting our body, and the more things that you do naturally, the less that you intervene with this thing, right? Two cells came together to form this thing. It's pretty darn intelligent. A pregnant mom, if you're pregnant on this, tell me how many times you had to tell that baby to grow a brain, or eyes, or heart, or stomach, or arms, or fingers, or skin. Never. All you did was sleep, be uncomfortable, eat your cravings, and continue on with your life. Okay? And then between 38, typically in 42 weeks, that baby comes out without you any intervention, without you having to tell it to do anything. You remove this conscious brain that educates our world that birth is something different, right? And it just happens. And then you feed this baby with your body. Whatever designed this thing, it's made very intelligently. The more that we interfere with this thing, the more interference, the lack of health, the dis-ease that we're going to express in our body. So living more of a natural lifestyle, raising kiddos naturally, comes into the fact of trusting your child's body, trusting your body. And I'm telling you, this is a journey. It's so deeply ingrained in you that when symptoms come about, we attack them, right? We get in our office all the time. Majority of people who come into our office have some sort of symptom. However, we don't treat those symptoms. We remove interference to that health and we fuel health. And when you do that, those symptoms, majority of the time, subside. Okay? So that's the principle that you look at. Everything that you do by, and this is like what we do in our office, and this is how we live our life, is that we look at what are we doing in our life, what's happening in our body that we're continuously doing that's interfering with that flow of the intelligence that made this thing, and how can we, in the 21st century, now more than ever, we have so many things, ridiculous amount of things that we can utilize to optimize and fuel this thing. Right? That's why more people are living to 100 now more than ever. Okay? So, remove interference, fuel health. It seems like semantics. It's not. And if you are going to have kiddos, or you already have kiddos, when your kiddos get symptomatic, when your kiddos express symptoms, when your kiddos have things going on in your body, the stress and tension of the world, it's going to trigger you. It's going to be really hard to live it more of a naturally way. Okay, but every time that you do, the strength of your understanding, the strength of your child's body will continue to improve. Okay, so last tier on this is, so medicine, naturopathic care, more of a natural lifestyle, all the natural things, right? And then we go to what we do, okay? Neurological care, okay? Making sure that the stress that we get endured from this world, the stress that we potentially had in pregnancy and our birth, gets dismantled And then we continuously make sure that stress stays down, right? Because when stress in our system, stress is like, boil it down, like the number one reason that we experience lack thereof health. The number one reason we experience unhealthiness within our body or our children's body. Okay. So number one, you got to hit that neurological stress as a core foundational thing. So that's what we do. And you also have to have all these other tiers on your team. You've got to have a natural lifestyle guru that you follow. You've got to have these naturopaths who take care of your kiddos more naturally. And then Western medicine when it has its place, right? What does Western medicine do the best? If you cut my arm off, or if my arm gets broken in a car accident, where are you going to bring me? The hospital. Please bring me to the hospital, because that type of care is necessary for putting my body back together. Okay? Everything else under the sun, when it comes to unhealthiness within the human body, whether that's in our children, our babies, our children, our pregnant moms, our families, you get to choose on how you utilize that system. All I'm going to tell you is that they're the best in the world at putting your body back together, and breaking arms, cutting things off, heart attacks, all of that, strokes, all of that. They're good to bring you back to life and to keep you alive. Everything else, you get that choice. Okay? All right. So the big picture, what we just talked about, nervous system is the boss. Okay? So that's the key to this natural lifestyle. We make sure that this neurologically, our brain, consciously of what we're talking about, as well as subconsciously, under the surface iceberg type of brain that coordinates all functions of our body, is relaxed, is balanced, is not stressed on a consistent basis, especially in our children. Because what is the number one epidemic within our kids right now when it comes to unhealthiness? Brain stuff, sensory disorders. 1 in 36 kiddos have autism. 1 in 4 have sensory disorders, right? There's this massive epidemic of neurological things going on within our kiddos, and we have to make sure that we keep that at bay. And how is the best way that we know to do that, with especially within kiddos, is consistently neurologically based chiropractic care. Okay, so next part of this is when we talk about movement. Okay, we got to always make sure that movement is life. There are so many things underneath the surface when it comes to this natural lifestyle. When it comes to movement, we're going to hit on that as well. Okay. Sleep is huge. You can't get enough of it. And then living cleanly, right? Chemicals in kiddos don't mix well. Okay. And when we say that, right, that is a loaded statement. Chemicals, so there's chemicals in the food that we eat, the air that we breathe, the things that we put on our clothes, our skin, our clothes, our toothpastes, our lotions, our everything. Go the natural route. There's so many levels to natural, right? But if you just need to go to Target and get Method instead of Clorox, start there. Okay, then maybe you want to go to 7th generation. Then maybe you want to go to Ecos, whatever it may be. And then you want to go to DIY, and then you want to get into essential oils, right? Wherever you feel is best to go and was least stressful that you can go that route. Okay, you might already be doing DIY with essential oils and all that, and ordering your own ingredients off Amazon and making your own concoctions. I get it. You're there. That's awesome. If you're literally using Clorox, just go to Target and buy 7th generation instead. Okay, chemicals and kiddos, and especially in chemicals in our bodies too, don't mix well. Promise you that. Okay. When it comes to digestion, okay, we're going to start here. We talked about neurology. Neurology, our brain controls our digestion. Okay. So a stressed out brain, when you're running from a saber-toothed tiger constantly, isn't important for that gut to digest food. No, it's not. Okay, so what we need to make sure is that when more of a balanced or relaxed mode, this brain triggers the digestion to happen well. Okay, a lot of people will go to balancing out digestion first and keeping digestion good from the start. However, we need to make sure that this brain, because that brain is the master control system of our body, fuels that gut. Okay, and then when that happens, then we can be in balance with our gut. Okay, because within our gut, there are so many microbes. Okay, a stressed out system doesn't proliferate the best microbes. But if we are in a more balanced state, the better microbes flourish, okay? And that also plays into how we eat and how we do things, okay? Eating more locally, eating more organic, that is more of a natural lifestyle living, right? Why is that? Because locally, typically, if you have a good place that does crops, those soils are more rich. They know what they do. Organic bought from the store, those soils are more depleted. However, they're not sprayed with the inorganic chemicals. They're still sprayed, but they typically use more like blood meal or compost in order to raise those vegetables and grow them strongly. So plays into that as well as the GMO factor, right? The fact that they splice insect and fish DNA into food. When would that ever happen naturally? It literally would never happen naturally. However, if you buy conventional things, majority of them have that genetic modification, okay? And then what happens on top of that is they spray all that stuff with Roundup, and Roundup glyphosate wrecks our internal environment, wrecks our nervous system, wrecks our body, and it doesn't do anything for the good, okay? So with that one, eat more locally, find a good vegetable farmer, find a good rancher, find ways that you can get things more naturally, more natural grains, all of that, and go more locally. Okay. And then if you can't, if you're like, hey, it's too much, just go to a more natural grocery store, buy things organically. Okay. That's a great start. So with digestion, we need to make sure that we eat a whole foods balanced diet. When it comes to kiddos, whole foods balanced diet, right? Our toddlers are always going to go through a picky stage. However, they're only going to get extremely picky if we give them the picky things that toddlers want. We went through this in our household, right? We fed our daughters some of the toddler things, right? The gluten-free, the organic gluten-free breads, the organic crackers, the organic fruits, right? Where did she like to go down? She liked to go down those routes. So we had to dial it back. We all went on a candida cleanse. We still are. And her palate expanded, right? That was a parenting moment from this crunchy guy who made some mistakes, okay? So with that, we can dictate how our children eat. And if we're eating like that, our children are going to eat like that. And then our toddlers get to the point where they're like, I don't want to eat anything but those gluten-free breads, those organic fruits, those organic grains. Then we found ourselves in a mix. So therefore, we have to dial those things back and eat more naturally and more balanced in a whole foods-based diet. With that, so when it comes to microbes, okay, we live in a world, especially right now, that is sanitation crazy. Sanitation crazy. Tell me any other animal that goes and sanitizes anything. There's none, right? Because we're meant to be natural beings that interact with our world and get exposed to different environments and get exposed to different viruses and bacteria. What it always comes back down to is the internal environment within our body. If we expose ourselves to a virus or bacteria, why do some people get the flu every year? Why do some people get COVID? Why do some people get colds? Why do some people get all these things, but other people don't? Right? And they've done tests in the past, and we're going to talk more about the immune system in a little bit, but I'm just going to say that they've done systems in the past, or tests and research in the past, that you take a healthy, vibrant individual with a balanced microbial environment within their body, a balanced nervous system, right? And they expose them to bacteria and viruses. However, that person doesn't get sick because their internal environment is functioning well. Germs don't cause sickness. A sick body causes sickness, okay? We'll talk more about the immune system in a second, okay? When we have a good microbial environment within our gut, our brain is more balanced. Because dopamine and serotonin that exists, those feel good, those reward hormones, those reward neurotransmitters for our brain exists inside of our gut. Okay, they work in tandem with our microbial environment. So it's important that we do that from day number one. Okay, how does that affect from the beginning? If you're in preconceptively balance out your nervous system, balance out your gut, balance out your microbial environment, and keep it consistent. Find a protocol for that. See a naturopath for that. They can do that. They can make sure that you have a better internal environment. When you grow that child within inside of you, and then you give birth to that child, I understand that C-sections are necessary, but a vaginal birth seeds that child with that mother's microbial environment. So if that mother's unbalanced within her microbial environment, especially vaginally and rectally, that literally hits everything. Because when you give birth, there's vaginal fluids, there's blood, and there's feces. Okay? And what that does is that populates within that child's nose and that mouth and their skin. And then they start that flourishing of their microbial environment. So if you're pregnant, start that path. Okay? If you're down the road and you're like, oh my gosh, my kiddo's gut's a mess, you can start that now too. Okay? We'll talk a little bit more about some of those things. Big things is make sure that your child is eating a variety of whole foods based diets. Okay? A lot of different vegetables, a lot of different fruits, a lot of different grains, a lot of different meats, because all of those different things feed more balanced system. Making sure that they have a supplement that we recommend all the time is called Ion Gut. Okay, they have Ion Gut for kids that works well, that links up those microbes and those microbes to cells. And then the whole probiotic prebiotic thing. Prebiotics is more balanced diet. You can get prebiotics. Probiotics are important as well, but you got to know which ones to get. Okay, you got to talk to a practitioner about that. Okay, we use certain brands, the best ones that you can get from practitioners. Okay, but that's a hard environment. You have to know a little bit more before you start shoving probiotics into your system, because if you have dysbiosis, you have an overgrowth of bad bacteria or bad viruses or bad bacteriophages, then your system's going to get thrown off and you're going to really not do well with adding more microbes in your system. It's called dysbiosis. No good to add a bunch of probiotics on top of that. Okay? Cool. All right. I hit all that. Immune system. Okay? If you have any questions, you can fire them away as we go through this. Okay? Immune system. Gosh, I love talking about this one. This is such a hot topic right now. And within kiddos, it is so misunderstood. So misunderstood. Okay? There are two aspects of our immune system. I'll start here. Okay? There is the innate immune system, and there is the adaptive immune system. Okay? There's a lot within those two, but we're going to keep it simple. Okay? Innate immune system is the immune system that we have hardwired, that is the first line of defense when we encounter something that is potentially going to be a threat to our internal environment. Okay? We are born with that. We're always going to have that. Okay? How it functions is depending on how you live your life and how you do things before you were born, how your parents did them, or how you're doing for your kiddos. Or once your kiddos are born, how are you doing that as well? Okay? That supporting that is huge. Okay? And then adaptive immunity. Adaptive immunity, people understand to be antibodies. Okay? Antibodies is just one piece of this massive puzzle that's so outdated that our system focuses so much on antibodies. It's one puzzle piece of this amazing puzzle that forms the immune system. It's an antiquated model, and do some research outside of that. Okay? The adaptive immune system is essentially when we encounter something over the long period of time, our system builds up this library with antibodies and amongst of other things that when we encounter that microbe again, our body can better respond to it. Okay? It has memory surrounding what that is. Okay? So when it comes to that, we got to make sure that we understand that the health of the internal environment, if we trust the immune system is made to protect our internal environment. And if we have a healthy internal environment, we're going to have a healthy immune system. Okay? It's okay to get sick as long as we're not getting sick 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times a year, right? It's okay to get sick. I say 1 to 2 times a year. Your immune system needs to flex its muscle. Your immune system needs to do its thing. So when it comes to kiddos, okay, your toddler is going to be sick. Your baby's going to get sick. It's okay. if you're doing things more naturally and you're doing less interference to your body, if you're intervening less, if you're telling the body and the immune system that we trust you and we're going to support this body, the immune system is going to work better. Okay. So this isn't a topic very discussed. Okay. But I witness it happen all the time in our practice. One thing that you are all aware of, okay, shouldn't say all, that's too much of a generalization, but most of you aware of the bodybuilder. When the bodybuilder injects steroids into himself or herself, I'm going to say more of himself because this is more of a himself thing. So when a bodybuilder injects steroids into himself, the glands and the little organs that produce testosterone that cause us to be able to build muscles shrink. Okay. So when a man injects himself with steroids, which is artificial testosterone, his testicles shrink. Okay. When a woman, typically women, sometimes men do this as well, but this is more of a female thing, takes a thyroid medication for a long period of time, their thyroid shrinks, because therefore what we're doing in those two scenarios is we're telling the body, you know what, we've got it. It's okay. You can stop doing the natural things in order to find balance. Okay. The same thing happens in our immune system. If we're constantly giving antibiotics and disrupting the microbial environment, right? Because antibiotics are just going to go into your body and target the one little microbe that's causing an issue within your system or your child's system, right? It's like spraying antibiotics everywhere and killing all of the stuff. Okay. But nobody talks about the rehabilitation that needs to happen when antibiotics are given. So going from that perspective, the more that you intervene with antibiotics, the more you intervene with pharmaceuticals, the more you intervene with antipyretics, which is the fever reducers, then it's going to function the way that it needs to, and your child's system is not going to function the way that it needs to. And the reps that you're putting system over a long period of time, the foundation is going to be unstable when it comes to the immune system. Okay. So don't fear the fever. Fevers are good. They're important. Okay. Do the research. I can send you an article on fevers written by the American Academy of Pediatrics. And I'm going to read you a statement from this system analysis. So a system analysis is a conglomeration of research studies to basically write a narrative as to what the research, all of that conglomerating research is saying. Okay. There is no evidence that children with fever, as opposed to hyperthermia. Hyperthermia is like putting your kiddo in a hot car and their temperature, their internal environment raising, different than the body raising its temperature in a normal environment, are at increased risk of adverse outcomes such as brain damage. And attached to that are 5 research studies to back up that statement. So basically, everything we've talked about at high fevers for our kiddos are bad. Yes, there's a certain point in which they're bad. Absolutely. However, that in this article too, it says they have never advised anybody to intervene, given antipyretics to lower that fever below 104. Okay, so how we've been educated on that, pharmaceutical industry has educated us, and as well as the medical doctors who hand out antipyretics and talk to you about antipyretics, the over-the-counter fever reducers. We've been educated by the pharmaceutical companies. In reality is we've been educated a lot about health by pharmaceutical companies. And here's a little disclaimer. Pharmaceutical companies are not in the interest of your health and good results, because when you do that, you don't use their system and therefore they lose money. Okay. It's a multi-trillion-dollar industry. It's literally the biggest industry. Okay. So when it comes to that, trust your child's immune system. Trust your child's body. It's going to challenge you. It's hard when you're a first-time parent. However, dig into that, do your own research, contact with providers who understand the same thing, that you need to trust your child's body, especially in the immune system from an early age. All right. Oh, one way to research this. Research instead of the germ theory, which we're all educated on, is that microbes make the body sick. It's another theory is called the terrain theory. Okay. Another one, movement. Okay. Movement. When it comes to kiddos, okay, when it comes to babies, okay, these developing children. So movement is life. I'm going to say more proper movement is life. What our world has done is it's forced babies' bodies into certain positions that aren't typically natural, okay? The jumpers are not natural. If your child's going to do it for a moment or two, that's fine, but it's a great babysitter because if you need to take a shower or brush your teeth, I get it, mom. However, that's putting undue stress on a child's body, on their pelvis, and their brain is not ready for that movement, okay? Another one is the bumbo. That is not a natural movement process, okay? Naturally moving is the process of carrying our kiddos, putting them on the ground, putting them on their tummy a lot, having them roll, having them move, occupying them while they move and develop these natural movement patterns. And when they have a balanced nervous system, they do it way better. And as we move through that, the movement gets to be more and more natural, right? We are obsessed with this stuff. So we never put our daughter in any major compromising positions, right? We carried her in the carrier. That's a natural position, okay? And everything else of how she interacted and moved on the ground, we let her do it. We encouraged her sometimes to move in the proper ways, right? We put toys in front of her to help her encourage crawling, or helped her, put toys by her to help her encourage rolling and help her brain develop faster. We did cross crawl movement patterns, right arm, left leg, left arm, right leg. When she was getting her diaper changed, that encouraged proper movement patterns, hemispherical brain communication that allowed our child to develop faster. And she was ahead of the milestone curves. Is she special? I think she's the most special thing in the world. But when it comes to a human being, right, she's not special. We just didn't interfere with and create unnatural movement patterns within our child. And now I'm learning things about movement from her that I'd maybe heard somewhere else, or even knew things that I'm like, wow, she moved that way. That was way more of a natural movement pattern than what I've learned to do, okay? Because that's hardwired from the factory. Nobody taught her how to move. Watch a little kid who moves well do a deep squat. They do it all day because deep squats are natural movement patterns. And how can we get back to that within our own lives? Parents, if you're there, you're like, man, I move so unnaturally. Number one, make sure you see a chiropractor. Okay, make sure your nervous system, your spine is moving properly so it's feeding your brain properly. Second would be find a workout routine that supports natural movement. Okay, if you're sitting on a desk all day, stop doing that. Stand up more. You can sit, stand, walk around, do that whole thing. Get standing desks, do that whole thing, walk around on phone calls, whatever it may be. And then an exercise way, a great place to start is called functional movement exercises. Okay, it's crawling, that's Turkish get-ups, that's squats, that's deadlifts, all the things that are hardwired from the factory. Reteach your body how to do that, okay? And when it comes, a deeper level when we talk about movement, okay? Movement in the areas of our spine that feed our brain. Our spine feeds our brain with about 90% of its nourishment. Okay, we think about nourishment, we think food. Food to the brain is proper movement. Okay, it's called proprioception. 90% of that comes from the spine. So when the spine's not moving properly and we have trauma from an early age, when we're talking about raising kiddos naturally, that trauma, that pulling up on skull, that pulling out of the birth canal, that those major falls, all those things that add up, the spine doesn't move properly. It's not feeding the brain with the nourishment that it needs. It's feeding it with stress instead, especially up through this top area. Right, from an early age, right? Whether it's a C-section, the pull up, or whether it's out of the vaginal canal, pulling that way, right? It wouldn't be okay for me to walk over to that baby's car seat or that baby's bassinet a day later and pick up that baby by their head, right? Because why? You protect the neck. Their necks flop all over the place. However, in the birthing process, and when they come out, they do all that, and they cause injury to the upper cervical area, which it feeds the brain with about 1/3 of all its nourishment. If that goes uncorrected for the long term, man, that leads to so many crazy things. In us, it leads to a lot of things, but especially in a population where has been raised in the wombs of moms in the most stressful, toxic times ever, right? That's why we have 1 in 36 kiddos with autism, 1 in 4 with sensory disorders, some sensory tendencies, right? That it's not okay. But if we properly move, especially in our spine, that feeds our brain, that de-stresses our system, and we move more properly, okay? And when we talk about movement, Okay, here's it from a natural perspective. I'm going to teach you a little bit of function insight into our brain. I see this, it makes me cringe. I literally see it every day. I was just at the jump place with my daughter today, the trampoline park, and I see these movement things. So this is from a natural perspective, and giving you an insight into function is that when you have, when you raise your baby, when that baby moves through, is that babies have a little bit of a choppy movement pattern, but as they develop, their movements should be fluid, right? Their movements should be fluid. It should be very fluid as to how we move, okay? So with a stressed out, toxic, damaged nervous system in most of our kiddos in our society, which is so sad, we have these choppy movement patterns. Okay, it looks like a robot. You have to really pay attention to watch a kiddo do it. Okay, it happens in their natural movement. It happens in their eye movements. That needs to get corrected now and for the long term. Okay, if you're seeing that, go see a pediatric and prenatal chiropractor within your area. Get that corrected for the long term, because that is not good. Okay, so pay attention to that as your kiddos move forward. Okay, so those are just eyes and arms of what you're seeing. Okay, but also those choppy neurological patterns that cause that movement also happen movement within inside the gut. Okay, movement within inside the gut, movement in other areas of our internal environment. We need to make sure that our brain is communicating with our body and causing fluid movement. Fluid, proper movement means life, feeds the brain back, and it happens this amazing cycle. All right. Last would be, and I could go on this stuff about all night, but I'm going to keep it concise. You can ask any questions. You can send us a message, whatever, comment on this thread, whatever it may be. Stock up on Nature's Medicine Cabinet. Okay. If you need support, and this isn't the medicine cabinet to treat symptoms. Okay. Sometimes it's good when we have symptoms that, hey, my body might need extra support in this department. It's not to decrease the symptoms. It's to fuel the body with what it needs in order to better handle this situation. So what are things that we can do within Nature's Medicine Cabinet? Okay. This is all about supporting health. This is not about treating symptoms. Okay. Seems like semantics, but when you dig into it, it's a completely different approach. So core ones for kiddos. Okay. And this is different from babies. This is more of I would say this is more of starting at an 18-month kind of thing. Okay. We need to make sure that they're on a solid probiotic. Okay. A lacto-based probiotic is a good one. Okay. A fish oil. Okay. Cod liver oil. We like that one. Make sure it's a good quality. Ion Gut for kids, and then Mighty Minerals. Okay. Those are 4 core ones that are killer, that are awesome. Good Nature's Medicine Cabinet. When it comes to immune system wise, make sure we have a good vitamin C for those kiddos. Make sure we have a good zinc for those kiddos. Make sure that we have elderberry syrup, really good for the immune system, without sugar. Okay, all those things. Stock up on Nature's Medicine Cabinet. Get a raw local honey, right? When it comes to allergies, when it comes to the junipers, when it comes to all of that stuff, if we have a raw local honey, that puts that back into our body. Okay, really good perspective for, and our kiddos will love that. Okay, a little bit of that. Good herbs, right? There's like, go into the natural food department, look at areas in which we can utilize herbs in our life as well. Okay, great place locally is natural grocers. They have a huge selection there. And when it comes to specifically babies, okay, Nature's Medicine Cabinet would literally be, if you're breastfeeding is like the number one. Support more with breast milk. Parents are like, they've got this little rash on their face, breast milk. They got cradle cap, breast milk, squeeze it on it. Some parents even go as far as squirting breast milk up their nose when they got a snotty nose. Okay. Nature's Medicine Cabinet for babies is pretty darn simple. And if you're not breastfeeding, okay, make sure you're giving that baby a probiotic, and make sure you're giving them a really, really high quality formula. Okay. If you're saying you can't afford it, cut other things out in your life so that you can't afford it. Okay. That would be a Whole formula, HOLLE, Whole formula, HIB, HIBB formula. You can get a goat's milk that's more similar to human milk than cow's milk is. Okay. Get more of a natural formula. Okay. Higher quality standards. Those come from Europe, way better than the Kirklands or the Similac. Okay. You read those and it'll make you barf as to what they put in those. Okay. Number one is corn syrup. Okay. GMO corn syrup. They're getting your child addicted to genetically modified corn syrup. Get them off it. Get more natural stuff. That would be nature's medicine cabinet for your kiddos. And there's so many stuff underneath the surface. Start with those and then dig in more. This is going to take so much research. This is going to take so much challenging your belief systems. This is going to take so much view on everything that you do in your life to raise your kids naturally, because our world does not educate you in that way. The world, if you just went the mainstream route, your household is filled with toxins. And my household as a kiddo was that way as well, until my mom really started to convert over. And thank God that by the time I was a teenager, our lifestyle, our diet, our everything was as clean as it possibly could, because we started getting consistent chiropractic care. My mom found a tribe. My mom was like, hey, I'm not alone, and realizing that I should live more naturally. And the chiropractic care balanced my mom's brain out. She was less stressed. She was adapting better to stress. She was living more from her prefrontal cortex. She was living more from her higher brain. And therefore, she adapted these principles, because it's so much easier to adapt these principles when we're better adapting to stress within our own bodies, mom and dad, and when our kiddos are better adapting to stress. They're more likely to be in a growth mode of being willing to do more of these natural things when they're in that space, versus when we're in protection mode. We don't want to do anything else other than survive and eat the sugars that fuel our stress brain. Okay. So, biggest aspect of all of this, take it one day at a time. Nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. Okay. I don't eat all fruits and vegetables all the time. I actually have been over the last 4 weeks, because we're doing a candida cleanse. I got 2 more weeks on that. But outside of that, I do like to eat pizza sometimes. Shh, don't tell anybody. I also do like to eat ice cream sometimes. Shh, don't tell anybody. But is that my norm? No, it's not. There's a lot of things in my life that I'm not willing to compromise on. If I know you personally, I can talk to you about those more. But one of those main things is, I'll give you an insight in this. I have no pharmaceuticals in my house. None. Zero. It's just how we live our life. Just doesn't fit into our paradigm, doesn't fit into the results that we've seen. And if I ever do need them, I'm absolutely going to go to the immune system or the emergency room or the urgent care. Okay. And there's other things that we do within our life, within this natural living lifestyle, that if you know me personally and you come in to see me and you want to know what it is, I'd be super happy to talk to you about it. Okay. But we have to be open and willing to not judge each other as well on what those natural living things are. And going back to it, live your life through results. Okay? Live your life through the results. Remove interference. Fuel health. Do things naturally. You're not perfect. And lastly, stress. Make sure that subconscious stress is at bay. If you don't have a chiropractor, we'd be happy to see your kiddos. We'd be happy to see your babies. We'd be happy to see your pregnant belly and you, or your entire family. If you reference this webinar, we'll give you 50% off our initial visit, $62.50 instead of $125. Give us a call. Let us know. We'd be happy to help. Reach out with any of these tactics that you didn't follow me say. I'd be happy to send you whatever I've talked about, plus if you need it. Put it in this chat box. Send us a message. Send us an email. davidlutz@purelight.com. And again, that's davidlutz@purelightfamily.com. You can shoot me an email as well. I'm happy to help, even if you aren't a patient, because it is my purpose in life to help kiddos be superhumans, help families live a natural lifestyle, and watch these families transform and to live at our highest potential possible. Because I'm telling you, I'm living proof. My daughter's living proof. My wife is living proof. My extended family is living proof. The people who come into our office are living proof. And there's so many people, there's tribes all over this country, all over this world, who are doing things more naturally and getting better results when it comes to health. So thank you for tuning in. Look forward to seeing you next time.